This is Jesse, and we're going to look at his shoulder, and then we're also going to see if there's anything, I'm going to see if there's anything I can do to help it. We don't know if it's restricted or not, but we're going to take a look. So the main thing that happens in the shoulder is that it comes forward like this. Now, as a massage therapist, I have a feeling that your hands are already drooling to get in and stretch my pecs just because I did this movement, right? So nothing wrong with stretching the pecs, but many or not most of the time, the problem isn't the pecs when you see this. It's because most posture, like traditional male posture and traditional female posture, tip the torso back, and that makes the shoulders come forward due to gravity. And then the humeral head glides forward. Remember the problem with that? So then we try to take your arm across the front. It kind of hurts here, or you feel pain back here. That's because the humeral head is not in the correct position. It's not seated properly in neutral. So Jesse's shoulders do come up a little bit off the table, and particularly this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to touch his pec. I'm going to try to make that move back. I'm going to take the heel of my hand. Well, first I'm going to walk down his shoulder blade. I'm going to walk down the acromion to the end of the acromion, and then I'm going to hop off so I'm touching the humeral head. You can feel the difference. You're on the acromion, then it ends, you jump off, and there's the humeral head. I'm just going to take this little surface of my hand, and I'm going to cup only the humeral head, and I'm just going to put a little pressure downwards. That is all I am doing, okay? Doesn't happen immediately. But you feel a little like a springy resistance, like an elastic resistance, and you just hold it down. Now, normally I might do this for, it might be as long as a minute, but while I'm feeling this, I start to feel less of that elastic resistance in the joint, and that tells me that the bone is moving back into the center of the joint where it belongs, so that its starting position is not off-center. And then the cartilage surfaces and the joint fluid are very close to the center of the bone where they belong. Now take my hand away. When I look back at Jesse, his shoulder is now closer to the ground, and or to the table, and you may be able to see that he's also smoother across here. That has nothing to do with his pecs. It has to do with the movement of the bone back in the joint. Now on this side, we can also see some anteriority. It may be hard for you to see, but this is the humeral head, and it's forward. It's not that he's like this. It's that the humeral head itself is forward like this. And so to work on this side, I'm going to show you a different technique. I'm just going to lift up his arm. I'm going to hold it in one of my arms. And then I'm going to take my hands and put them right across the top of the joint like this. And his hand can just drop. And then I'm going to come over. I'm going to, again, bring him across the midline. Remember, if the person had pain on the inside coming across the midline. I'm going to take him across the midline, but then I'm going to draw back so that the top, where the ball is moving out, down, and back. Right? It's moving that way, while the elbow moves towards you. So as you try to take your arm across the midline, you don't want to feel an impingement in the front. You want to feel nice, juicy movement. To do that, the ball has to glide back in the socket. And what does that? Your rotator cuff, particularly the back rotator cuff muscles, teres minor and infraspinatus, but also subscap. So first, I want to move the bone. Once I do that, and once you do it, you're going to be so amazed because the rotator cuff muscles are going to be much easier to work, and the changes you make will stay because they'll no longer be working at a disadvantage. Now I'm feeling some movement, so I'm hoping we're going to see a difference. So as I take Jesse's arm down now, there's more freedom across here, and this is more neutral. Now you know how to work on the rotator cuff, I hope. If you don't, the only muscle you probably don't work on very much is the subscapularis because it's so painful. So the way I like to work on it and the way it's been tested is to have the person come from here up to here, and they just keep the same shape in their arm going up and down. And while they do that, I'm going to demonstrate it cross table, although I would never do it that way, just so that you can see it. I'm going to come into to the front of the armpit, that's the lat, and then I'll just go in a little further, and I'm going to sink down onto the front of the scapula. And unfortunately, you'll know because it's uncomfortable for them. Now, Jesse, I just want you to take your elbow and bring it up over your head. As he does that, I just hold down a point on the subscap. Don't let your elbow go too far out. Keep it in as far as you can, and then bring it back down. They don't have to stay at the top. One more time, go up. Keep your elbow as close to your body as you can. There you go. There you go. And then come back down. And you might do that like 4 times, something like that. One more time. This is a great stretch, and it's been shown to hugely help adhesive capsulitis or frozen shoulder and other shoulder problems in swimmers, professional swimmers. So let's see if there's anything else. Oh, great way to test the shoulder, if you really want to test it specifically, rather than just looking, which is what I did, is you can push down on the humeral head. Again, you have to make sure you're not on the scapula, so you walk off the end, and you're just going to test this range. Why? Because that's the range that gravity brings out of focus, right? It brings out of position. I'm going to come around in a circle like this, just a quarter of a circle, and feel where it's tightest. It's tightest right here. So that's the place I might want to work. If I come across the table from this side, I'm going to be right here on that point. I'll just hold his arm, and I'll push this way. I'm going to show that on the other side of the table. So if I find I'm going to come from the front, and I'm going to work my way around in a quarter circle to the top. On this side, I find the top is the most restricted. So on that side, I pushed out this way. Here, I'm going to take his arm up, and I'm going to come on the top. I have to walk off the acromion, and then I'm just going to put this part of my hand on the humeral head, and I'm just going to lean. I'm telling the humeral head, go down towards his feet, while I'm telling the elbow, come up towards my arm, because when he lifts his arm over his head, I want the humeral head to go down in the socket, and I want his rotator cuff muscles to do that. So I need to train his nervous system, and I need to release the joint. Once you do this, and this is range of motion work, once you do this range of motion work, you are really going to be amazed that the work you're doing valiantly to try to help the muscles around the joint is going to bear fruit in a way that you can't imagine. And chances are they'll feel immediate relief. So there are lots of other ways you can work with this, but mainly if you just know you have to find the humeral head, that's the hardest part. You press around this quarter circle, you check where it's restricted, you find some way to gently put pressure on it to glide it back to the center of the joint, and then you work on the rotator cuff. And if you do this, you'll certainly do other things. Whatever they need is what you'll do. But if you do those things, you're going to have an enormous impact on a problem that our culture is spending millions of dollars on a lot of times without getting any relief. And you are the one that should be doing this. Thank you.